All right, today we're talking with, on your left, Matt Messenger, Director of Web Marketing at Aztec, Dave Skrepper, the Chief Creative Officer here at Aztec. You know, Aztec, you guys have been around for a while and you're involved in all things web development and design and marketing and SEO and social media and all that stuff. So when we want to know the latest stuff and what's going on, we come to you guys. So thanks for joining us today, Matt and Dave. Let's look at some of the things we hear about. We're starting to hear about all the time with the web stuff. And the first, I think, one of the newer things this year and last year is responsive design. Can you tell us, first of all, what responsive web design is all about?
Sure. Responsive web design is kind of a sub-discipline, or soon-to-be mainstream discipline, arguably, of just a way of building websites that instead of what maybe traditionally people considered as having a regular website and a mobile version of a website, which were two very separate things, which was like the big size and the little size, which didn't really address the fragmentation of the different types of device that might access your website, and certainly made for all kinds of other maintenance and search engine nightmares by having two different websites that had to be updated two different ways and follow two different sets of rules. So Responsive aims to address all that by having just one website that adapts itself to the viewport of the device being requesting the website. And so it's oftentimes a really elegant solution in that maintenance becomes simplified. The device requesting it really doesn't matter per se, because let's face it, it's impossible to keep up with the thousands of different devices that are coming out constantly. So it's better just to address it by saying, I don't care what the device is, I don't care what you're using, your site's just going to work.
Okay, and with responsive stuff, there's a lot of talk about the user experience, the optimal viewing experience and all that, and there's some debate and discussion that a user shouldn't have to scroll at all, for example, anymore. What do you guys think about that?
That's nonsense.
Nonsense?
You scroll without
tell us how you really feel, Dave.
You scroll without even realizing it, and anybody who steps back for a second and actually answers that question objectively will acknowledge that they do the same thing. You look at sites like Target and Amazon, and you go to these and you don't go, gosh, I was going to buy something from Amazon, but I just had to scroll too far. It's just not the case. You do it and you don't even realize it, and people are just trained. 10 years ago when the internet was still kind of newish, I could see that case, but we've just gone way past that point now, I think. Now that doesn't mean, I want to pre-qualify that, that doesn't mean that you don't still want to get important information in the initial view when the page loads. It doesn't mean that that's not still a relevant factor to consider, but it's not the end of the world. You can't ask somebody to see, digest, and make a decision on all the different things that might be available on your website in one fell swoop. It's simply not possible. It's like 1,000 voices talking at the same time. You'll hear none of them.
So Matt, do you think that real estate above the fold, as we call it, is that still what we target and we go for? But you can go below the fold, or you can flip the paper over if you have to.
Yeah, I think Dave really hit the nail on the head with the making sure that the primary action is prominent. So whatever the layout is, whatever the goal is that you're trying to accomplish on the website, as long as that next action, whatever you want that user to do, is effectively placed, that's of vital importance. I agree with Dave. You don't have to worry about getting necessarily everything above the fold. You scroll without even realizing it anymore. And I think what this all really boils down to is the user experience discussion. So having the responsive site, having everything all in one location, on the back end is really effective. But making sure that a website uses the way that somebody wants it to, with the way that they expect it to, and gets them as easily as possible to that next action that you want them to take on the site. That's really what it all boils down to, and that's what's important.
Okay, now what about a site that's almost automatic scrolling, like a Pinterest? Once you're there, the images just keep loading in column after load. Do you guys like that design? Is that something useful? Would you use it for your clients?
We have used stuff like that. That's a call that's based on a lot of other factors: the technology, the audience, the type of content you're trying to present. So that's not something that's a blanket solution. Although certainly a lot of people have been copying that. eBay amongst them is the most prominent recent copycat. It's a successful design pattern, and for a reason. So Pinterest, kind of stumbled onto something that works in a lot of different cases, but everybody associates it with the Pinterest board style. But it's not appropriate for everybody.
And what do your developers think about the responsive web design in general?
Responsive web design actually falls more on my team on the design side. most of the techniques and technologies needed to do that fall onto the design team. So, most of responsive is happening through CSS and JavaScript and techniques that fall on the front end. So our developers have very little opinion because they do, because really their jobs haven't changed all that much unless we need to make some kind of exception for fitting something maybe on an admin side or a complicated data table or something where we've got to consider removing columns or doing something a little different. But for the most part, it doesn't really affect them.
And from an SEO or search engine optimization standpoint, it should be noted that Google has specifically come out and said that they prefer responsive design over having a separate mobile site entity. So usually when Google's that straightforward about something from a web marketing standpoint, you better be listening. And then everybody knows, I don't think it's any surprise that mobile usage and the adoption of mobile devices, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet type of device, it's growing exponentially, and in the very near future, mobile usage, in terms of accessing the internet, is actually going to outpace PC and laptop usage. So, keeping that in mind, responsive design is definitely something that is of vital importance, and as people do more and more mobile-based searches, having responsive design can actually make your website give you a little bit of an extra boost. There's a lot of ranking factors, but having a mobile, responsive design type of website will actually help your site rank better in mobile searches.
All right, that's a great look at responsive web design. Thanks, guys.